Arrigo Sacchi's role in the elimination of Brazil in the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. There are transitional factors in the success of penalty kicks at the end of the game, such as experience of players in penalty kicks, correct training and knowledge of the technical issues of penalty kicks at the end of the game, controlling emotions during penalty kicks, controlling mental pressure and stress during penalty kicks, correct selection of players for penalty kicks, the order of priority for choosing players during penalty kicks, and other factors. In the final penalty shootout, a mistake will determine the winner of the match. And there will be no opportunity to make up for the mistake. A mistake in playing a penalty kick or a great save by the goalkeeper will determine the winner. So it is necessary to prepare for kicks, penalty in the field of several issues such as information and data of previous games, planning and goal setting, how to choose players, order of selection of players, stressful issues, etc., should be thoroughly investigated. Having a purposeful plan and program in the penalty shootouts of the last game can only be obtained through the knowledge of the information and statistics of the previous games. Without information and knowledge of statistics and information of previous games, it is not possible to plan and set goals. Usually, in the last penalty kicks, the role of the players, especially the movements of the goalkeepers, are shown in bold. All the movements of the goalkeepers and also how the players take penalties are analyzed by experts, while the effect of the coaches is less reviewed and investigated. The role of the coaches in the selection of players. The priority order of the selection of players is very important, as the statistics and penalty information of the last football game show. In order to check each of the above factors, we will analyze the final penalty kicks of the most prestigious football tournament, the World Cup. Usually, in the investigation of penalty kicks at the end of the game, the role of players and goalkeepers is considered very colorful and important. And the way players take penalties and also how goalkeepers react are analyzed by experts, while the plan and program coaches are less analyzed. In this program, I intend to examine and evaluate the role of coaches in the selection of players, and the priority order of players' selection for penalty kicks, and to review the tremendous impact of this selection during penalty kicks, as well as the very important impact of this selection in the result. Let's analyze the match. In the 1994 American Football World Cup, in the final between Italy and Brazil, which went to penalty kicks, Arrigo Sacchi, the coach of Italy at the time, used Roberto Baggio, who was Italy's main female penalty taker, for the fifth last penalty, with this thesis that the first and last penalty is very important. Arrigo Sacchi's point of view is that the first and fifth penalties are very important, and he kept his best female penalty for the fifth penalty, due to the fact that Arrigo Sacchi was a very famous and globally recognized coach. This thesis or method quickly spread in the football community, and many coaches welcomed and praised this method. This method spread so much that we even used it in local and low-value competitions. This is completely normal. Big and well-known coaches use different football methods. Different ways of playing are used for the first time by big coaches and big clubs, and other coaches and clubs copy that method. This method of copying or so-called imitation is common even among players. For example, after scoring a goal, Ronaldo performs movements that many other players copy. Or even the way of standing behind a free kick, some players perform the same movements they give. It means that the scientific content and game methods flow from elders and prominent people to ordinary people. Arrigo Sacchi's method regarding penalty kicks at the end of the game is still welcomed by coaches and clubs, and some coaches even use it in very important competitions such as the World Cup or the European Nations Cup. But when the statistics and information of penalty kicks at the end of the game, we will find out how experienced coaches are caught in such a trap. I will give two examples to explain the problem. 1. Qatar 2022 World Cup. in the quarterfinal match of the 2022 World Cup Qatar between Brazil and Croatia. After the end of 120 minutes of the match and a tie, it was decided that penalty kicks would decide the winning team. Neymar was the main penalty taker of the Brazilian team. But according to the plan of Mr. Tite, the head coach of Brazil the time, Neymar he had held for the fifth penalty, but alas, the match ended before the penalty kick reached Neymar. Mr. Tite, in the same way as Arrigo Sacchi, that is, the best penalty taker, kept himself for the fifth penalty. But it was not Neymar's turn to take the penalty. This move means that he lost the opportunity to take the best penalty with wrong planning. A mistake in penalty kicks leads to the loss of the team. And there is no compensation for that mistake. Every team has 2 or 3 prominent players who take penalty kicks. When a team keeps its most prominent and experienced player for the last penalty, it must consider that there is a possibility that the game will end before the 10th penalty, and statistics and the penalty kick data at the end of the game also shows this. It can be said that the last victim of this decision in a major international match was the coach of the Brazilian team, Mr. Tite, and the Brazilian team, the 5-time World Cup champion. Certainly Mr. Tite is not the first and the last coach who adopted Arrigo Sacchi and failed, and in the future, other coaches will also follow this method. 2. Euro 2012. In the semi-final match between Spain and Portugal, when the result of the game was tied, according to the rules, the winner of the game must be determined by penalty kicks. Mr. Paulo Benito, the head coach of Portugal at the time, kept Ronaldo, who was the team's main penalty taker, for the fifth penalty. But the only thing that happened to Ronaldo, it was a pity because the game ended before Ronaldo's turn and Portugal lost. Mr. Paulo Benito, the head coach of Portugal, fell into the same trap that Mr. Tite fell into, which is to adapt the method of Arrigo Sacchi. Brazil's Neymar and Portugal's Cristiano Ronaldo are 2 of the best penalty takers and prominent players of their team. And both of them score penalties during the game, but in the match that went to penalty kicks. According to the plan of their coaches, the fifth penalty was supposed to be played by them, unaware of that the game ended before the fifth penalty. This is the first mistake in the design and planning for the penalty shootout of the last game. According to the statistics and information of penalty kicks at the end of the game, this method of Arrigo Sacchi will play a significant role in the result of penalty kicks. We will logically analyze the negative impact of this method in the next program. According to the statistics and information of penalty kicks at the end of the game. At the end of this program, I request you, dear viewers, to express your opinions and criticisms as well as your questions in the comments.